So, where would you say the defense is through 4 games versus where you want it to be?
The word I want to use is it's close. You know, we're close to winning, but at the same token, that's the same word I'll use to losing. We're that close to losing, which just comes down to details. We just need better consistency from us, and it starts with me making sure I can hold them to the point, hold them to the standard, so that what we're giving up in terms of a yard that gets a first down is now a yard backwards, so we can get off the field. It's things of that nature when we're in tight coverage and our eyes deceive us and we want to look at something else besides our man. That's a completion for a first down. Or in the coverage, we're busting coverages because we are enamored by the quarterback running to our right. So we just get out of our coverage and we want to go make a play on the quarterback. So it's us as players being accountable of doing what they're asked to do, but more importantly, starting from me, it's our job as coaches to make sure that they can get on the field, and in their mind there's nothing else more important than doing what they were coached to do. So that has been the process that we're going through since Sunday, and we definitely need to see progress on come Saturday.
So does that mean that you change the way you teach, maybe simplify things a little bit more, break things down, do repetition, things like that?
I would say all of the above. You know, first simplifying and making sure, again, it's my job to make sure that we don't put them in harm's way. Obviously, when we have maybe too many checks, we give them too many options. You know, the A, B's, and C's might not be the right way to do it. So we will simplify the package, but more importantly, make it so that all the fundamentals that we teach actually applies to what the package calls for.
One of the big things everybody was looking at coming into the season was pressure on the quarterback.
Yeah.
You know, last 3 games, no sacks. I know you got in the backfield a few times.
Yep.
But how big is that, and how much does that need to change?
No, that's huge, because that's a whole part of the package, is making sure we can get pressure on, whether we do it through disguises or we're doing it through coverages, and that hasn't been accomplished. You know, we got 4 missed sacks on the last game. Partly is due to the athlete that was on the other side of the ball, but partly is due to not paying attention to details in terms of executing. So again, I take full responsibility of that. You know, I got to find a way to generate pass rush. We don't have the guys that you guys have seen from last year, but there's always ways to do it. You know, and that's my job as a coordinator, is to manipulate ways so we can actually get 1 or 2 guys free to get some sacks. You know, so yeah, that we have did some mixing and matching, and we're still trying to produce a group that will be very similar to what we've produced last year. You know, I think some other players that have entered the field, you know, I think Sharif would do a great job for us. I mean, he kind of stood up for the limited amount of reps that he has. There's some younger guys that I'm now going to have to put out on the field and have them prove them, you know, just put them to the fire as opposed to trying to walk them and hold their hands. You know, I think that's where we are right now, is we can no longer wait, but we got to get those guys out on the field.
What did you see from Brian Addison this past week?
It was awesome, but I knew he was going to play that way. I think this was a very emotional game for him, you know, because of his pass and his transfer status from Oregon. But I think he took that step in terms of being a leader. He played a really physical game. Couldn't happen to a better guy to score the touchdown there on the interception. But I think he took a huge stride in terms of not just playing his position, but kind of moving himself forward and being one of the leaders of the defense now.
Who are some of those young guys that you said they're going to?
Yeah, Sharif for sure. You know, we got to get him on the field. I think Luke, we found a way to make him a pass rusher as opposed to a defensive end run stopper. I think that's one way. Finding more ways to get the big boy free. We got to get 93 free. He's eating up way too much doubles, and that's, you know, we kind of understood that. Oregon did a great job making sure they could put a tight end. They actually brought a tight end and folded him and double teamed him that way and slid the protection to him. So again, I need to do a better job in terms of freeing up the guys that can make plays, which is 93, and then putting guys on the field, which I do believe can generate plays. I think you guys seen, you know, just a touch of what they can do, and they're starting to do it here on the field today.
What did you find in that third quarter? I mean, you guys shut them out, at least, you know, kept your guys in the game at least a little bit there. I guess what worked in that quarter?
Being simple. Really, it was being simple. You know, it was being able to line up and play football and then let our technique execute. I think that's what helped us in the third quarter. I think the fourth quarter, our technique kind of fell apart a little bit, whether it be the amount of body blows they took, and eventually, you know, the aggressiveness of what Oregon did kind of just got the better of us there. But that third quarter, like you said, I mean, that's something that we have to hang our hat on and kind of move forward, going into not even more, but just as physical team that we're going to face, and everything will be smash mouth football, and we will be very tested this week for sure on how physical this defense is.
What goes into improving the eye discipline? You talked about that. We hear that a lot, but how do you level up with that?
Everything will be really more the buzzwords and then the accountability. So while they're in practice, and we had a third down period today, before the rep, everything was about make sure your eyes are where they're supposed to be. Like, they just need to hear it. And sometimes kids, they don't hear it enough times. You think you said it enough times as a coach, but there's never enough times that something can be said. My son played baseball, and his coach would always tell him from first base, if the ball's on the ground, you're hitting second base. If it's up, you're halfway. And I said, shouldn't they know that by now? And he said, he had an internship at New York Yankees, and I don't know the base coach's name, but he said if he can tell Derek Jeter that every single time, I can tell a 9-year-old every single time. So I've carried that with me. I don't think you can say it enough times. What you're hoping to hear is they say it back to you. Then you know for sure everything has been digested and it's really locked into their mental. But if not, then again, that really comes down to coaching. I'm a big part of that. I believe kids win games, the players win games, but if we're losing, that has to come back to us. And all the responsibility comes back to us. And from film study to how do we get better, game plan for sure, and then most importantly, like the eye discipline, the techniques, the fundamentals, we can improve on that. I think that gives us a better chance to win.
This is a loaded question, but is there the talent on this defense to be a good defense?
It is, if we can get the right package. I would say that. I think, sometimes I've manipulated so much. We're trying to create something, but it put us with our hand behind our back. We need to be able to play with two hands out and then just line up and play. So again, going back to your question, the simpler we can get, I think that actually helps our defense at this point.
How would you evaluate the effectiveness of the blitzes in helping to get pressure so far?
I think it's I would say it's a C plus at best. I think we're accomplishing that, but I think the takeaway from that is when they can see the pressure, the ball just coming out so quick that we're not having the coverage tight enough. So, like I said, we can manipulate all we want to get to the quarterback, but if we don't have a fitting coverage to make sure that we are jumping routes and we're in a position that we can make pass breakups and interceptions as opposed to tackles for a 5-yard gain, you really don't have that push and pull that you're looking for in defense.
You mentioned this is a very physical Penn State team. The quarterback's obviously pretty solid. What have you seen on film? Also, they have a couple of backs that they like to utilize too.
The backs come downhill. That's one thing that I've seen. If they see any type of daylight, they're going to hit it, whether it be a stretch play or a gap scheme play. I really appreciate the offensive line. Being a defensive line teacher, I appreciate the offensive line, the way they work together. They work in unison. Their hand and their foot placement is pretty well played. So I think they're very well coached. But I think ultimately the mentality of, like we talked about this in the beginning of the year, and it's about to happen again. We shown our first hand against Indiana, and I think Indiana got the best of us. And now we're going to go into Happy Valley, and this is one of the more powerhouses of the Big Ten. So we got to put up or shut up. I will say that. Like, we got to show that we can play the physicality of football that is expected from this school entering that conference.
Have you heard from Latu? Is he giving you encouragement?
They all are. Carl, the twins. They all are. I appreciate those guys. I love those guys so much. But they keep telling me, just keep grinding, coach. Just keep grinding. But that is my work ethic. You always feel like you wish you could get something, the accomplishment you want based on your work ethic. But it doesn't happen that way in this game. It really doesn't. It's just you just never know how the ball falls. And for me, the only thing I do know is to try to outwork somebody else. So. That's what I plan to do, and I really appreciate those encouragement words from those guys.
Who are some of the player voices who are helping you out with that accountability?
Well, Jay would be one. It's tough because of my being the first-year coordinator. The ones that can repeat my voice is really in my room, is in that defensive line room. The other one will come from the linebackers, but they're learning really more my philosophy as we go along. So they're seeing the right things, but they just don't have that pack behind the punch, And so right now, Jay's the one guy that he understands it, so he tries to be a leader on the field. Even though I'm trying to keep him healthy, he's trying to beat people to the end zone and then be the first in line. And so it's things of that nature. For us, I mean, it's that whole saying, you know, how you do the little things is how you do all things. That is so true in what we're going through right now as a team, let alone our defense. You know, you're just one step away from here, one step away from there. We had, on that last touchdown, we had a guy that actually should have pulled the trigger off of Jing. I thought he would have got the sack, but he was in the end zone trying to cover a route. You know, so it's things like that. But again, it really comes back down to me. There's something in his mind that triggers him to go as opposed to overcome his own thinking and go back, right? And so that comes from this field right here.
And AJ got an extended look at him this last game.
Yep.
What'd you see out of him?
He's the other young guy. He will be on that field. I mean, it's time to go at this point. And he's the kid I was trying to walk his hand. I think he's going to be just as good as Jay, but we cannot wait no longer. You know, all these young kids that we're trying to, you know, spoon feed. I mean, we got to just throw them in there. Like, they're going to have to learn by trial and error, and what a game to learn. I promise you. I mean, this will teach them what it is to play against the physicality of the Big Ten.
Have you seen signs that these guys are still locked in on what you need to do, and what are they?
They are. You know, I love this defense because I feel like part of them, they work so hard to try to give me what I want, you know. And so on the flip side, just, man, I've been up since 3 o'clock on Sunday because I just don't want to let down this team. These kids fight hard, man. And so I think the love for each other, that's what keeps us going. But fundamentally, technically, that's my job. I just got to get these kids better so we can win.
Thank you, Coach.
Thank you.
I appreciate you.
Thank you, Coach.
Thank you.